Adventure is in my blood. Finding treasures big or small and having fun is what it's all about. With my wife Melissa and our 3 kids, life is pretty full. But there isn't a mountain we can't climb together. This isn't your ordinary antique store. My name is Alex Archbold and this is Curiosity Inc.
I'm home, honey!
Hey guys, and welcome back to today's episode working on the old ratty Rolls Royce. Well, last week I got the dashboard, started to get that reassembled, but there were still some pieces that had been chewed up, gnawed on, scratched up by rats, rodents, raccoons, and all the other R-word type animals that could possibly fit inside this car. But I came up with a solution. One thing I didn't really cover off is answering a couple questions of how the car went from looking like this, which is a nice driver quality car with a half decent interior, to that. That happened all within a period of, well, let's see. The car was purchased in 2003. So, you know, over a period of a decade or more, the car got destroyed, mainly because the previous owner passed away and they shoved it outside. I was reading through this note and it says, "Dear George, great news for you. The keys and the photos of the car have surfaced and I'm sending them along to you. Thank heavens I stashed the extra keys 30 years ago just for such an emergency." These were the original owners. You must be having a fun time telling your friends that you bought a Rolls Royce at a garage sale. What a classic story. We always called the car the Empress. It's good to know it has a name. It just seemed to fit. I hope that all is well with you and your family. And so this is from a lady named Alexandra. And I looked up Alexandra online. I was actually going to reach out to her and talk to her about her former car. Sadly, she passed away. She was someone who was very much into history and had a stunning Adobe-style home that she had lovingly restored over a period of time, was featured in magazines with it too. But this was her mom's car. Her mom bought it brand new. They lived in the Del Monte Forest area in Pebble Beach. Nice community, from what I hear. And it went from being a really beautiful car and passed down to a daughter and then sold to this fellow and then basically destroyed. So when you have a car like this, you want to try and preserve not just the vehicle itself, but the family heritage, the history that went along with it. And I think a car that was well maintained for all those years deserves a better life than what it's getting right now. And thankfully it was maintained properly over a period of many years. I've got receipts going back to the 1960s. I think with a little TLC, I can get that car looking like this again, or even a little bit better, in no time. The dash panels are made of sort of a hard, thick foam. I didn't have anything to rebuild it with, but I did decide to use spray foam, which is the same stuff that you'd use if you're insulating like your house. It dries to a really hard foam and you can shape it afterwards, and I'm going to use an old bread knife for that and try and give this stuff a little bit of form. Now I am off to the upholstery shop in just a little bit, so I have to get this done fairly quickly here. But the you can see where it had come up to that point right there. Now there's a lot of expansion that's happened. I have to shape this very carefully and get rid of all the excess and try and make it look like it's got the right form so it can be upholstered later. And for that, I'm going to be using an old bread knife, which, don't worry Melissa, I'm not going to put this back in our cupboard after. It's one that I sort of use for projects like this. And I'm going to be getting an idea of where the shape is. So right like that, and you just start sawing and basically start getting the form that you want. Now, I'm gonna get rid of some of the extra vinyl that's on there and see if I can just let it, I'll try and do this on camera so you can see, just let it ever so glide across the surface so that I have that original surface to work with. I don't know if you can kind of see how it's, see, that was all missing and now it's not. I have to do that all the way across and all the way across the top, but pretty soon I'll have a surface that can be upholstered. And you might be asking, does this stuff
stick to this surface? And the answer is yes. Actually, it's on there really, really good. So I'm just gonna continue kind of sawing away here. And all I'm doing is just very gently trying to recreate that missing form that was so lovingly eaten by animals, and trying to get back to the shape that this thing should be. You got to be careful though, because you can cut into the original foam and then your knife gets sort of guided in the wrong direction. I don't imagine many of you out there are going to have to do this yourselves. But if you ever did have to replace some hard foam on anything like this that needs upholstery, this stuff should do the trick. I also had to fill the foam in this piece too, and you can just see how much material was missing that had to be filled back in. But now that is the same sort of density as the foam that was on there, and with some upholstery you'll never know that that was so gross underneath. Last week I started reassembling some of the dash panels and took the upholstery off of this area here to get it redone. There's some pieces underneath here you can see that are gray. I've got a better piece for there. I want it to all be black. I know this car had the two-tone sort of dash, but I think it'll look a lot nicer. See how that was black? The dash is black if it just continues through the black. And that means that this little center console here, trying to get my light out of the way, needs to be cleaned up and dyed as well. I'm gonna start off by getting my handy dandy spray nine, which I've learned that some of you guys don't have that in your country, but we have it here in Canada. It actually works really good. I'm gonna get that on there and start getting that all cleaned. Thankfully, no rodents or raccoons got to this part of the car, probably because it was nestled in between the seats. So they couldn't destroy it like they did the rest of it. I'm gonna put this on there and let this really soak in for a bit, just to get rid of any germs and whatever gross stuff might be on there, and then I'll scrub it off. Now that that's all cleaned off, some of this, I've cleaned it really good. That's just, discolored in the leather or vinyl right now. I'm going to use painter's tape and tape off the areas. I might actually leave that a little bit exposed to clean up some of that black. I'm going to tape off all the areas that shouldn't be getting paint on them or the dye on it, and then we'll give it a spray. Now, even though all of this other stuff is getting covered with carpet or other vinyl or leather, I still don't want to get excess overspray, so I'm just using a piece of old cardboard just to keep some of the spray off. And I'm going to go in small doses for you to give this a good shake and kind of get your pattern out there. You're going to hold back a fair ways, and then you just kind of lay it on ever so lightly. I want to do a couple coats of this just so it kind of goes on nice and smooth. We're going to go all the way up to the top to get that edge. I'm going to keep going all the way around. Well, the first coat is drying. Take a little bit of light over here. While the first coat is drying, you can kind of see it's still thin in a couple spots. I will mist that back in a little later on. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to work on dismantling this section. You can see that's in pretty tough shape. I took a better one off of the parts car. I have to unscrew that, take that panel off, and I'll put a good one back on. Well, you can clearly see why I want to remove that. But to get to it, see if I can focus on this. There is a little screw on the bottom here. And I've decided to put gloves back on because this part of the car is still kind of nasty. And it's just gross. But I'm going to have to get a wrench on there, get that off. Once I remove those screws, this should start to lift out. That's how I got the other one out. Then I can replace it. It's sort of like a little map box or a little accessory glove box. The other one's in pretty decent shape, so it'll be nice to get it swapped over. But I'm going to turn the camera off, take that screw off. So there it is. It's out. The old nasty glove box. The lower portion is out. And then there's the one I'm replacing it with. Now it's a little dusty, but that will clean up. I will spend a little time getting that cleaned up, and that will be just fine once it's all back in place. Okay, so I'm out in the garage, I'm working on the car, and I noticed that the glove box door is in fact different. So I had to come inside and redo the old glove box door off the car, and I'll show you what the differences are. This is the one I just had refinished and put on the car. The problem is it has a little button on the top here, and the one that is meant to go on the car does not. So what I did is I took the rat-eaten and rodent and raccoon and whatever else was in there eating it. I took the padding off of the other one, and last night
I used my Varathane and I sanded it down, and it actually turned out really, really nice. I'm really happy with how that turned out. So I got the wood off of the other one. So you can see that one has a handle, but it's not supposed to on my car. It's supposed to be hidden. And the brackets are a little different too. So I've got to dismantle this padding, dismantle that, and put it on the other piece and put it back on the car. At least I had the original dash, I had the original panel, so I could do that, but was almost a bummer, but decided to do it right. Okay, I've got the correct bracket put on this side. That one was all right. I decided to put a little glue and clamp down some of the leather a little bit better. Now to stick the wood on. And the thing with a hand-built car like this is that every one is different. So I've noticed that when I put the wood on, like this, the screw holes don't line up with where the old one was. But that's okay, it's wood, I can make new ones. And that will be in good condition. So really I'm just salvaging the dash pad after all is said and done off of the parts car. But still, at least I'll have a nice dash to put back in. And that old one turned out pretty nice. There, that's a much better fit. And now it's smooth all across the top as it should be. And it just locks into place with a little magnet that holds it in. Working perfect. The dye is also dried now on the console. So the idea is that this will all be black and then go into that with the gray seats on either side. I think it'll look sharp and it'll tie in the fact that there's a black dashboard. So making some progress here. Got the wood back on, it's cleaned up a little bit. Definitely looking a whole lot better. I certainly have a fair bit of work left to do, but that's a good bit of work for today. Well, that's it for today. I had some more boxes arrive. I had the brand new bumpers that I purchased show up for the car. I had the windscreen rubber come in as well. Lots of bits and pieces have been going on and showing up. I'm not ready to put them on yet, but I'm gathering, slowly but surely gathering, and trying my best to sell stuff on eBay to try and save up some money to hopefully get a paint job on this car in the near future. So I put up some of my best records that I had and some other things too. Incidentally, you can find me on eBay under Curiosity Inc. on ebay.ca, the Canadian eBay. Anyway, it's been a good week. Parts coming in for the car. Carpet got installed in my house. There's all sorts of great things happening. Thank you so much for watching this adventure of the car. Next week, hopefully I'll be getting the carpet kit showing up for the inside, the carpet kit for the trunk. I'm gonna maybe get a battery in on the next episode and see what works, like if the windows go up and down and what works and what doesn't. So lots more to go, but right now it is snowy and minus 40 degrees Celsius and minus 40 Fahrenheit. So I'm not gonna be doing much in the garage for a little bit. So don't forget to subscribe so you can watch this car actually get finished, hopefully, knock on wood. We'll, hopefully by summer have a chance to drive this thing. That's my goal, have this car road ready by summertime. But little bit at a time, we're getting there. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.